Mackenzie Johnston with Cattle News Central, bringing you your February 7th cattle industry headlines, brought to you by AgRisk Advisors. They provide risk management programs to livestock producers all across the West. Whether you are concerned about price or weather risk, AgRisk Advisors, they are here to help. With current day market fluctuations, there is nothing more important than locking in a price floor on your cattle. So if you would like to learn more about an LRP, reach out to an advisor today. Also sponsored by Lemke Cattle. They are going to be hosting their annual bull sale this coming Friday, that is February 11th, at the ranch near Lawrence, Nebraska. These naturally thick, heavy, muscled, complete Angus, Red Angus, and Balancer genetics are developed right, guaranteed, and built for profit, with over half qualified as top dollar Angus sires, while also siring highly maternal, easy-keeping females that will keep you in the cow business. Go to lemkecattle.com, DV Auction, or check them out on Facebook for weekly updates and videos. And finally, American Beef Producer Magazine. They offer in-depth articles on a wide variety of topics in our industry. They feature award-winning photography and so much more within their publication. If you'd like to check out their most recent edition, their February edition, all you got to do is click on the American Beef Producer Magazine link above in the caption. That will take you over to their Facebook page where you can check that out. American Beef Producer Magazine, guiding beef producers for over 25 years. So a new study was released last week by Texas A&M claiming that negotiated trade mandates do not provide price discovery and market transparency as part of an analysis of the Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act of 2021, also known as the Cattle Market Compromise Bill that was introduced by Senator Fisher and Senator Grassley. Much like how the University of Arkansas was requested to submit research on our cattle markets, Texas A&M was requested to submit their analysis of this bill to the Senate Ag Committee. According to the report, if the Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act would have been enacted on January 1st of 2022, the following would be the minimum requirements of negotiated trade by region. So Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, 15.1%, Kansas, 26.7%, Nebraska, 45.3%, and Iowa and Minnesota also at 45.3%. Colorado was excluded due to a lack of consistent data. The report claims that the burden to increase negotiated cash would fall heaviest on the Southern Plains, and of course it would, because they rarely participate in the spot market. Over the past year, negotiated trade reached a stable minimum across all of our cattle feeding regions and began to trend upward thanks to NCVA's 75% voluntary plan, according to the report. If our industry were to reduce the use of AMAs, we would see volatility increase in cattle supply to individual plants because AMAs assist in the procurement and scheduling of cattle for delivery far into the future. Reducing AMAs would increase costs for larger plants because they run on economies of scale and efficiency. Additionally, more negotiated cash sales would cause an unreliable supply of animals or gaps in the supply chain. According to research done by ag economist Stephen Kuntz, a lot of his research was used for this report. Limiting the use of AMAs will raise costs by $35 a head. 10 of those dollars would come from the packers, the other 25 would come from cattle feeders. The analysis concludes by claiming research has shown that there is a value to AMAs in the form of lower costs, improved logistics, and reduced risk. Mandating higher levels of negotiated trade would result in higher transaction costs, and those higher transaction costs would cause lower cattle and calf prices and higher wholesale and retail beef prices. If our industry were to have negotiated trade mandates, they would provide additional price discovery and market transparency, but that does not mean that cattle prices would be higher. There is no evidence at this time that increasing price discovery would increase cattle prices. Montana Ag Network has reported that the 2021 drought was devastating, to say the least, to Montana cattle producers. It's estimated that Montana's cattle herd shrunk anywhere from 35 to 55% because of the drought that they have endured in the past year. According to Shaylee Stewart, host of Cattle Market News on social media, the biggest cash flow hit to your enterprise when you have to sell cows due to drought conditions is actually the year after the drought. The studies that Stewart has read and the research that she has done has shown that drought-reducing situations usually affect a producer's bottom line and their operation for 7 to 10 years following the drought. This is obviously because you have to sell cows because it's dry, and then once the drought passes by, you have to rebuy those females. We all remember what the market did in terms of bred females when we think back to the years following the drought of 2012. Absolutely just went sky high. At that time, we saw cows sell up to $3,000 or over. Just ridiculous prices. Stewart urges producers to keep as many females as possible if you can, somehow make it work with your hay and grass situation. The market is on the uptick, and it's best for producers to be able to play offense instead of defense. Meeting Place has reported that protests against a Canadian mandate for truckers to get vaccinated against the virus is causing a beef logjam at the Coutts, Alberta entry of the Canada-US border. The Canadian Meat Council has reported that there are over 150 loads of Canadian beef stuck at the border crossing. The protests are in response to a federal Canadian mandate that was imposed on January 15th that requires unvaccinated Canadian truckers returning from the United States to quarantine upon their return home. On Friday, 3 Canadian beef industry groups, Alberta Beef Producers, Alberta Cattle Feeders Association, and the Canadian Cattlemen's Association, called for a safe and timely resolution to the truckers' blockade because the prolonged disruption is putting the supply chain for both Canada and the United States at risk. Since beef isn't flowing into the United States from Canada as usual, a backlog has been created at processing facilities, feedlots, and farms and ranches up in Canada. Additionally, the blockade has halted feed from the United States to Canada at a time when it is badly needed in Western Canada. This update is also sponsored by Circle 5 Cow School. If you are wanting to start AIing or wanting to learn how to preg check your own cows, Circle 5 Cow School is the way to go. They host classes almost every week from from Texas to Tennessee. If you would like to check out their schedule, head on over to circle5cowschool.com. That is the number 5 in there, or you can go ahead and just give them a follow on Facebook. Reuters has reported that Tyson Foods is expected to post strong results for its beef business when they release their quarterly earnings today on Monday. The Biden administration has criticized not only Tyson, but the other major packers of their high meat prices and fat profits that they have been experiencing. Tyson responded to these allegations, claiming that meat prices increased because of market factors such as the pandemic and severe weather, and that the company raised its prices to combat inflation. Arun Sundaram, senior equity research analyst for CFRA Research, expects margins for Tyson's beef unit to reach 16% year over year for October through December of 2021. That is the first quarter of Tyson's financial year, and this increase is thanks to increased meat prices. During the same quarter a year ago, margins were 13.2% when the beef unit reported quarterly sales of almost $4 billion. Analysts expect Tyson's quarterly revenue from all of its units, including beef, to come in at $12.177 billion, up 16% from last year. It's fair to say that they are doing pretty darn good. Finally, Drovers has reported that according to the USDA, our meatpacking industry has become incredibly consolidated while cattle producers continue to take a hit. What a revelation. 50 years ago, ranchers were receiving 60 cents of every dollar that consumers spent, but today they are only receiving 39 cents. Hog farmers are even worse off. 50 years ago, they were receiving anywhere from 40 to 60 cents of every dollar, and today they're only receiving 19 cents of every dollar. To remedy this situation and bring justice to potentially unfair and anti-competitive practices in our protein industries, the USDA and DOJ have come together to launch a new reporting tool that can be found at www.farmerfairness.gov. Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack encourages producers who are aware of potential violations of competition laws to submit information so that the USDA and DOJ can take action to create more competitive markets in agriculture. A complaint will go through a series of reviews before appropriate action will take place. That is all I have for you guys this morning. I hope you all had a great weekend. Have yourself a great Monday. I'll catch you later.